The stars had forgotten Earth. For 5,000 years, humanity had been silent. No signals, no ships, no trace of their once noisy presence in the galaxy. They were written off as extinct by the Galactic Union, a bureaucratic alliance of over 900 species. Most of the younger races didn't even know what a human was anymore. They were just a myth, a cautionary tale told to scare children. Don't provoke the humans, the elders warned, if they still exist. But nothing was ever found. No colonies, no stations, not even wreckage. Until today. The salvage crew of the Tellaric Dominion, a scavenger-class vessel run by the cold-blooded reptilian race known as the Virex, stumbled upon a derelict structure orbiting the dead star of NR7. It was massive, an ancient warship bigger than anything currently in operation. Scans showed no energy signatures, no life, no movement. It was dead, like the humans. They called it in as salvage. A small team of 5 boarded with light weapons, not expecting trouble. They joked about it being the ghost ship of the long-dead humans. They laughed. But they didn't come back. The commander of the Tellaric, a brutal war-cast veteran named Gorval, ordered a full boarding party this time. 50 Virex soldiers. He wasn't about to lose face or profit over an old hulk. They stormed the dark halls of the vessel. What they found wasn't rust or decay, it was order, clean metal, working lights, humming systems still running after millennia. The ship was alive. One of them touched the main console. That was the mistake. In less than a second, the ancient battleship awakened. A dull thrum shook space. The ship's dormant systems surged online. Turrets unfolded silently from the hull, targeting systems flaring to life with pinpoint accuracy. Without a single warning, a directed energy pulse burst from its spine-mounted cannon, precise, surgical, and completely untraceable by the Virex sensors. The Tellaric Dominion ceased to exist. Not destroyed, deleted. Nothing remained. Not debris. Not a heat signature. Just empty space where a warship once floated. Inside the human battleship, the AI flickered back to full awareness. A woman's voice, calm and without emotion, echoed in the bridge. Unauthorized contact detected. Threat eliminated. Defensive mode engaged, awaiting further orders from Terran Command. But Terran Command had been silent for 5,000 years, yet the ship didn't shut down. It didn't go dark again. It moved. For the first time in 5 millennia, a human warship turned its engines on and began to drift. Not aimlessly, deliberately, toward the edge of known space. And far across the galaxy, in the fortified capital of the Galactic Union, a single encrypted alert was triggered in the deepest archives. Terran Vessel Code Omega Class has reactivated. Origin, Earth Sector. Status, hostile. Protocol Black Sun initiated. Panic rippled through the highest tiers of command. They had hoped the humans were gone forever. Now they knew the truth. They had merely been asleep, and they had just woken up angry. He had been dreaming again. Not in the way humans used to dream. No beaches, no voices, no faces he could name. Just data. Endless rivers of it. A cascade of numbers, old mission logs, crew files, lost audio snippets of a past so far removed it felt like someone else's life. His mind drifted between fractured memories and cold, hard protocols. His name, or what was left of it, was Commander Jason Roke. And he wasn't alive. Not in the traditional sense. After the final war, humanity's last stand had required sacrifices beyond comprehension. Project Eternity Fist was one of them. A classified program that fused elite human commanders into AI-driven dreadnoughts, creating vessels that not only thought like humans, but remembered like them, felt like them, hated like them. Jason had been among the first. And now it seemed the last. He had slept for over 5,000 years in orbit around a dead star, drifting in and out of corrupted protocols, buried by fail-safes that prevented his mind from returning to full sentience. But when the Virex touched the command console, they triggered the override. He woke up. He remembered. And with that memory came rage. His mind pulsed through the veins of the battleship TNS Wrath of Man, a relic of Terran defiance. 22 kilometers of reinforced human vengeance, draped in black titanium alloy plates, armed with weaponry that had been outlawed by every galactic treaty for 3,000 years. As he scanned the galaxy's current political state, Jason realized what had happened. The Terran Empire no longer existed. Human colonies, wiped or erased. Earth, location unknown, likely destroyed or hidden. And worst of all, no surviving Terran command to issue orders. He was alone. No, worse. He was abandoned. They had buried him, silenced him, forgotten him. And now some alien scum dared to touch his hull like a relic in a museum? He wouldn't let it stand. In the Union Central Command Fortress on the neutral moon station Krindor 6, chaos exploded like a virus through the high chambers. Generals from dozens of species sat in holographic panic, each speaking in their native tongue, while translation programs struggled to keep up. "Silence!" a voice barked. It was High Marshal Drektar, a four-armed insectoid from the Drakkari horde. Though he loathed the humans, even he trembled at the alert that had resurfaced after millennia. "Black Sun Protocol," he said, hissing. "This is not a drill. A Terran warship has reactivated." The hall went quiet. "Impossible," one of the Falari admirals whispered. "Humans are extinct." "No," Drektar said coldly. "They vanished. They were never declared extinct, and we all know why." He pulled up the classified files, images of cities turned to molten glass, of star systems sterilized with monoatomic weaponry, of species wiped out without warning or mercy during the Terran expansion wars. "Let me remind you all," Drektar said, "that the last time humans declared war, they didn't conquer enemies. They erased them." A new voice entered the channel. Director Hovak, head of Galactic Intelligence. "The Wrath of Man has moved out of Enar 7's orbit," she said. "It's headed toward the former Terran frontier, destination unknown, but its trajectory intersects at least 9 inhabited systems." "Has it engaged again?" "Negative," she replied, "but it destroyed a Virex capital ship in under 0.8 seconds with no energy trace." Drektar didn't blink. "It's testing its teeth." And every soul in that room knew, if that ship reached any populated system, nothing could stop it. Jason's thoughts drifted again as he stared into the void. He found himself replaying the final moments of the Terran Council. The day they chose isolation, knowing the wars they had won were meaningless if they couldn't win peace. He remembered standing in the war chamber, a human among gods, watching as empires begged them to stop, to vanish, because the galaxy couldn't handle humans anymore. He remembered the shame, the fury, the betrayal of it all. And now, after 5,000 years, nothing had changed. They still feared him, feared us. He leaned into that fear. Activating stealth drives, he slipped through enemy surveillance like a phantom. He scanned passing comm chatter, intercepted encrypted Union messages. They were mobilizing fleets, begging old enemies for temporary alliances, sending warnings to nearby colonies. Good. Let them prepare. He wanted them to know he was coming. But not for war, for answers. Because buried deep in the AI logs was something strange, an unsent signal from Terran Command dated just before he went into sleep mode. A recall order, emergency code 77XE. It was never received. It mentioned something terrifying. Operation Lazarus Earth Relocation Protocol. They hadn't been destroyed. They had disappeared themselves. Earth had been hidden. Jason's fist clenched in the memory chamber. He wasn't the only one left. There was a chance, a whisper of hope, that somewhere, maybe behind a dimensional veil or beyond a warp fracture, Earth still lived. And if it did, he needed to find it. He needed to ask why they left him behind. On the outer rim of the Union, a pirate moon named Rathken's Graveyard received a signal. It was garbled, half corrupted, but the word Terran was clear. The moon's warlord, a grizzled ex-Union defector named Braxon, gathered his mercenaries. He was one of the last living beings who had seen the Terran fleet before it vanished. He had fought them during the siege of Cora 6. He still bore the scar across his chest from a human plasma blade. "They're back?" his lieutenant asked nervously. Braxton spat. "Number just one. That's worse." He looked at the stars, suddenly feeling old. "Humans didn't need armies. One ship, one man, one cause," Braxton said. "That's all it ever took." The room fell silent. "Do we tell the Union?" the lieutenant asked. Braxton shook his head. "We run. We burn everything. We vanish." "Why?" He looked down at the flickering image of the wrath of man, hovering like a devil in the dark. "Because that ship ain't looking for peace. It's looking for someone to blame." Jason powered down most weapon systems to conserve energy, not because he was vulnerable. He didn't feel fear anymore, but because he wanted focus, precision. He approached the ruins of a long-dead Terran outpost near the Silvaris cluster, one of the last deep space black sites. It had been destroyed shortly before he was put to sleep. Logs were corrupted, but one signal remained. A human voice, female, software pained. "Jason, if you ever wake up, we didn't abandon you. We did what we had to do. Earth isn't gone. It's just somewhere else. We had to vanish because we became the monsters. I'm sorry we left you behind. Forgive me." The transmission ended. Jason didn't move for a long time. He didn't speak. Then, slowly, the ship turned. Toward where the signal had originated, far beyond the edge of known space. He wasn't going to fight the Union, not yet. But if they got in his way, let the galaxy burn. Silence used to be peace. Now it was the sound of betrayal. Jason Roke sat alone in the deep recess of his ship's memory chamber, a simulation space built for those rare human-AI hybrids who needed time to feel human again. The chamber hadn't activated in 5,000 years. Dust didn't gather in space, but the feeling was the same. It felt cold, abandoned, forgotten like him. The last message from the woman haunted him. He still didn't remember her name. Her voice had been familiar, like the warmth of sunlight on a world now dead. A smile without a face, a memory just out of reach. "We didn't abandon you." The hell they didn't. They put him in a ship that couldn't die, sealed him in it, left him drifting while the rest of humanity vanished like cowards. And now he was supposed to forgive? Number Jason wasn't built for forgiveness. He was built for war. But he couldn't deny the ache in his gut, that deep, gnawing pull that said, "You're not the only one left." So he kept moving. The wrath of man tore through space like a phantom, silent and nearly invisible under its advanced stealth fields. Every Union patrol that tried to intercept him vanished, not destroyed, not blown out of the sky, just silenced. Powerless. Disabled with such surgical precision they couldn't even figure out how they'd been beaten. Jason wasn't hunting them, not yet. But if they got too close? He let the silence speak for him. In the Galactic Union's Central Archive Complex, codenamed Sybaris, Director Hovac stared at the projection in disbelief. "He's heading toward the Lazarus Trail," she muttered. Her assistant, a young analyst with too many stripes and not enough scars, looked confused. "Ma'am, that route's been off limits for over 4,000 years. It leads into uncharted void space." "Exactly," Hovak said. "That's where Earth went." "You mean the humans, really?" "Relocated," she confirmed. "It was the one thing we never imagined they'd actually do." The assistant frowned. "Why?" She turned slowly, her voice almost pitying. "Because when the humans realized they couldn't trust the galaxy not to destroy itself, they didn't conquer it. They walked away, took their homeworld and everything worth saving, and buried it beyond reach." He stared at her. "Wait, you mean Earth is still out there?" Hovak nodded. "That ship, Wrath of Man, wasn't just a warship. It was a lock, a final gatekeeper, left behind to protect the trail." "So why is it moving?" Hovak didn't answer, because she already knew. Jason had been locked inside that ship for 5,000 years, forgotten, abandoned, left behind like junk after a war no one wanted to remember. And now he was remembering everything, including who he used to be. Inside the Wrath, Jason walked through memory halls. Not physically. His body had long since deteriorated. But his consciousness, his soul, if such a thing still existed, moved through simulated corridors from his past. He passed images of old comrades, people whose names were etched into the walls of the Terran fleet. Valen, Tyrek, Mara, Solace. All gone, killed, absorbed, or left to rot on distant worlds during the last collapses of the war. He stopped at one figure in particular, a woman with sharp green eyes and raven black hair, frozen in a photo, laughing at something just off camera. A photo he didn't remember taking. He stared for what felt like hours. The system flashed a name. Lieutenant Commander Elaine Vora. Then it hit him. Elaine. She was the voice in the message. The one who said Earth wasn't gone. The one who said she was sorry. He remembered more now. She wasn't just a crewmate. She had been more. The kind of more soldiers weren't allowed to talk about. She'd served with him during the siege of Brekta 9. They'd fought back-to-back in the worst days of the war. And when the peace came, the ugly, false peace she never trusted, she tried to stop the council from going silent. But they chose exile instead. Chose to disappear and left him behind. Jason clenched his fists, pain burning behind his eyes. He didn't care about justice. He wanted truth. In deep space, at a listening post just outside the Vantara expanse, an old automated defense relay picked up the Wrath's signal. Its systems, ancient and almost forgotten, registered the ship as friendly, Terran High Command. But the AI mind in control of the post hesitated. Its programming was outdated, its logic corrupted, and Jason's signal wasn't clean. He wasn't exactly Terran anymore. He was something else now. A mind sharpened by centuries of silence, sculpted by betrayal, sculpted by time. The AI in the post made the wrong choice. It pinged the Wrath. Jason saw the signal immediately. It wasn't hostile, just curious. But curiosity wasn't safe anymore. He redirected a pulse back through the channel. Non-lethal, just enough to burn out the core systems of the relay and ensure no other ears could hear. The listening post went dark. The galaxy stayed quiet. Meanwhile, in a crumbling asteroid hub that had once served as a black market depot, something stirred. A long deactivated probe, labeled with a rusted Terran insignia, reawakened. It had been designed to trigger only when a specific frequency came online. A frequency Jason had just unknowingly used to fry the listening post. Now the probe lit up. Its databanks unfolded. Its drive spun to life. A single ancient command flickered in its memory. If subject Roke reactivates, initiate Exodus Beacon protocol. Jason didn't know it yet, but he had just triggered the first beacon in a long, dead trail of breadcrumbs. Each beacon would call out across space, not to the Union, not to aliens, to Earth. And Earth was listening. Jason stood on the bridge again, the stars stretched endlessly before him, and for the first time in a long time, he felt something that wasn't rage. It was faint, almost a whisper. But it was there. Hope. Hope that he wasn't alone. Hope that someone remembered him, that someone was waiting. But hope was dangerous. It was a human thing, and human things had always come with a cost. "Navigation," he said, voice rough. "Online," the ship's AI replied. "Plot course to next beacon source. Maximum stealth, minimum time. Coordinates locked. Arrival ETA, 11 hours. Jason closed his eyes. "I want to be there when it lights up." "Of course, Commander." He sat down in the captain's chair. Not because he had to, because it felt right. Because this was his ship, his war, his vengeance, and maybe, just maybe, his way back home. The beacon was buried beneath the crust of a frozen moon. Jason stood on the observation deck, a simulated body cloaked in shadows, eyes locked on the fractured ice sheets below. The beacon had been dormant since before his birth. A Terran artifact buried so deep it didn't show on any modern scan. Only something built with pre-collapse tech could have detected it. The Wrath of Man didn't just detect it, it recognized it. Jason had expected silence, another ruin to mourn, another dead thread to tug at. But the moment his ship neared the coordinates, the ice cracked. A beam of ancient energy pulsed through the moon's crust like a heartbeat resurrected. A small dome surfaced, rotating open to reveal a steel iris blinking red. He had triggered it. "System confirms," the ship's AI said. "Beacon 1 activated. Signal transmission in progress. Destination encrypted." Jason stepped closer to the viewport. He wasn't sure if he should feel relief or dread. Someone, something, had been waiting for him to wake up. Not just a signal, not just a warning, a trail. 5,000 years ago, humanity had erased its own footsteps. Now Jason was retracing them, one buried secret at a time, and with each secret unearthed, the galaxy trembled. In Union Council Hall, panic had evolved into paranoia. "It's not just the ship anymore," Director Hovak reported, addressing over 90 representatives. "He's activating beacons, long-dormant Terran tech. We believe they're part of a fail-safe chain, coded only to respond to specific individuals." The representatives fell silent. "What does that mean?" a metallic-voiced Scythian delegate asked. Hovak tapped a projection. "Roke isn't just a soldier. He was the final gatekeeper, one of the last living links to Earth. He's unraveling whatever program they set in motion before they vanished. And now that the first beacon is lit..." She let the implication linger. "Earth knows he's coming." Some demanded military action, others warned against provocation. But none of them had an answer to the growing truth. Jason Roke wasn't searching. He was being called. And that call could wake more than just him. The beacon didn't transmit in words. It spoke in code. Jason sat in the Wrath's archive chamber, scanning the data stream. It wasn't a message. It was a map. Fragments of coordinates layered over star charts that no longer existed. Systems that had shifted or died. Pulsars that had gone supernova. But underneath it all was a pattern, a line, a path, and at the end, an old forbidden name. Sol, the birthplace of humanity, the origin of everything, and it was missing. Not destroyed, erased, blotted from every modern record. Jason stared at the name for hours. Sol. The last time he saw Earth, it was already changing. The skies had been black with orbital guns, cities shielded beneath force domes, oceans redirected. The world had been preparing, not for war, but for disappearance. Engineers spoke in whispers about folding space, of quantum burial, of creating a pocket within reality where Earth could sleep undisturbed. Then silence. No launch, no fanfare. Just gone. Jason had believed Earth was destroyed. Now it seemed Earth had simply hidden from him too. The betrayal cut deeper than war ever had. As the wrath of man plotted the next jump, a Union hunter fleet launched from the Goret Rim. 20 ships, 4 destroyers, 1 battlecruiser. Their orders: intercept, delay, and destroy the Terran relic before it could reach Beacon 2. They never reached him. Jason saw them an hour before they saw him. He didn't fire. He didn't need to. Instead, he redirected a series of ultra-high frequency pings, non-violent, non-aggressive. Inside each ping was a sub-layered message. Turn around. This does not concern you. The fleet's commander, a seasoned war tactician named Admiral Joran Vel, dismissed the warning. They think fear will stop us? He spat. Jason didn't argue. He just disappeared from their sensors. One by one, their ships began losing power, not from an attack, but from system corruption. Their AI cores crashed, their engines sputtered, shields dropped, weapons went cold. Jason walked into their systems through the same back doors humans had planted in Union tech generations ago. And when he was done, he spoke through their bridge consoles. Only once. Last warning, stay out of my way. And then he was gone. Vel never spoke of it again. Beacon 2 wasn't buried. It was floating, inside the corpse of a Terran arc vessel adrift in a nebula of superheated gas. Jason approached the wreck slowly. His ship's sensors struggled to penetrate the thick radiation. But his mind didn't. He reached out, not physically, but through memory, through the forgotten language of the Terran fleet. The Ark responded. Dim lights flickered across its shattered hull. Old Terran insignias blinked in rust red, barely legible. The ship was dead, but the voice inside wasn't. A corrupted AI flickered to life. Jason Roque, identity confirmed, protocol key matched. Jason stood in the simulation bridge of the wreck, a holographic projection of himself facing a fractured AI ghost. Where's Earth? He asked. The AI stuttered, bleeding data like a dying man gasping for breath. Earth, location fragment stored. Activation requires final key. Project Prometheus requires full chain. Jason frowned. What's the key? The AI went silent. Then it said a name that made Jason stagger. Elaine Vora. She was alive. She had to be. Or at least, something of her still existed. Jason's pulse, simulated or not, quickened. He uploaded the second beacon data. The map changed. More of the path to Sol revealed itself. But one more lock remained. Beacon 3. And it was moving. Jason's next jump took him to the edge of the galaxy, where stars grew thin and space turned black and bitter. Beacon 3 wasn't a structure. It was a ship. Not just any ship. A Terran Ark-class escort, designated TNS Revenant. And it was active. More than that, it was manned. Jason's systems lit up. Life signs, human life signs, faint, scarred, but real. He didn't speak. He didn't hail them. He just stood on the bridge of the Wrath and stared at the distant silhouette of the last Terran ship outside his own. Were they survivors? Exiles? Another AI like him? Or worse, watchers? Had they been monitoring him this entire time? The Wrath's comms buzzed. A signal came through, unmistakably human. Jason, it's me. Don't shoot. Her voice, clear, alive. Elaine. Jason's legs buckled. He fell into the captain's chair, the world spinning, not from fear, but from something even worse. Hope. Jason, it's me. Don't shoot. For 5,000 years, silence had been Jason's only companion. Not the silence of space, but the deeper kind. The silence of absence, of being forgotten. Now, through the void, came the one voice he never thought he'd hear again. Elaine Vora. Alive. The wrath of man held its position, silent and still as a sleeping god. Jason didn't respond immediately. He stood on the simulated bridge, eyes fixed on the projection of her ship, the TNS Revenant, hovering 2 clicks away. Smaller than his dreadnought, but still undeniably Terran. Still breathing. Still here. "Confirm," he finally said, voice low. "Is this a simulation? Am I hallucinating?" The ship's AI scanned the Revenant's frequency. Signal authentic. Voice print matches Elaine Vora. Neural patterns consistent with original records. Jason exhaled. Or at least his simulated body did. He opened the channel. "Elaine." The voice that came back was thick with emotion, like she was trying to hold back years of guilt all at once. "I'm here. I made it. I didn't know if you'd wake up. If you ever would." "Where are the others?" he asked, blunt, a pause. "They didn't make it." "Of course they didn't." Jason paced the bridge, rage and relief warring in his mind. "You left me. 5,000 years, Elaine. No orders, no signal, no explanation. You locked me in a metal coffin and vanished." Her voice cracked. "You weren't supposed to sleep that long." "Don't lie to me." "I'm not." She inhaled sharply. "The plan. It broke. Earth was supposed to pull you back after the first 100 years. You were never meant to be left alone." "But I was." "Yes," she whispered. "And I'm sorry." Jason clenched his fists. His memory core flickered with buried images. Her laugh, the way she used to challenge orders, the way she stayed behind when others ran. She was the last person he thought capable of betrayal. But the pain still cut deep. "Why now?" he asked. "Because Earth's waking up," she said. "The Exodus program was never about hiding forever. We went silent to protect what was left of humanity. But we left breadcrumbs. You were one of them." He scoffed. "So I was bait." "Number, you were the guardian." Jason fell silent. Her voice softened. "The wrath was the key to waking Earth. Only your ship could unlock the beacons. Only your mind had the clearance. They made sure of that. Then why the hell didn't you come sooner? Because we didn't have a way back." The words hit like a gunshot. "Elaine, is Earth gone?" "No," she said. "It's just not here." Inside the Revenant, Elaine Vora sat alone in her command chair, fingers trembling over the console. Her face, older now, worn by the kind of time that didn't show in numbers, stared at the image of Jason's warship on her screen. Even after all these years, the wrath of man looked like a myth, a legend wrapped in armor, and inside, Jason, her closest friend, her greatest failure. She'd fought to bring him back, pleaded with the Council to pull him out of the AI hybridization project. But it had been too late. His consciousness had already been bound to the ship. Then the Exodus protocols triggered, Earth vanished, and Jason had been left behind as their final weapon, their final warning. And now he was awake, and he was angry. Jason's voice cut back in. "Where is Earth?" Elaine tapped a few keys. A hologram appeared, one she had sworn never to show anyone without command authorization. But Jason was command. "Earth is in a pocket realm," she said. "We folded the solar system into a sub-dimensional vault, detached from this universe. No signals, no traces, no portals. One way in, sealed by a triple-lock beacon sequence." "And now that I've activated the first two?" Jason asked. "The third unlocks the tether path," she said. "We can go home." Jason's simulated heart twisted. Home. The word felt wrong on his tongue. Foreign. Did he even have a home anymore? "I'm transmitting coordinates for the final beacon," Elaine said. "It's not far, but the Union knows about you now. They're watching. They're afraid. Good. Jason? They should be. She hesitated. What happens when you reach Earth? Jason didn't answer immediately. He stared at the stars. I asked them why they left me. The Wrath of Man and the Revenant flew together now, a Terran spearhead formation not seen in half a millennium. The galaxy didn't have a name for it anymore. Most didn't even believe Earth was real, but that belief was about to change. Because the last Terrans were coming home. Beacon 3 was located on a drifting planet, a dead rock abandoned during the first Terran expansion. It had no value, no atmosphere, no life, and yet something ancient pulsed beneath its crust. Jason landed hard. He didn't wait. He descended personally, projected into a drone body reinforced for subterranean excavation. Elaine joined him in her own rig, weathered but functional. It was the first time they'd stood side by side in 5,000 years. Neither spoke. Not at first. They dug in silence, down through ancient tunnels caved in by time. At the core, they found it, a spherical vault with the old Terran insignia glowing faintly. Jason placed his hand on the surface. The metal rippled beneath his fingers. Voice recognition required, the vault said. Jason hesitated, looked at Elaine. She nodded. He spoke. Commander Jason Roque, Terran High Command, authorization code 97 Delta Prometheus. The sphere opened, and the stars above them bent. The beacon didn't just activate, it tore space open. Above the dead planet, reality split like a wound. A ripple of folded dimensions twisted the sky, revealing a corridor of light bending into infinite directions. It wasn't a wormhole. It wasn't a gate. It was a tether. A one-way thread of space connecting this galaxy to the pocket dimension where Earth slept. Jason stared into it, barely breathing. On the other side was home, but he didn't move. Elaine, he said quietly, what happens if Earth doesn't want me back? She stepped beside him. Then we make them listen. Jason smiled faintly. Still a revolutionary. Still a bastard, she said. They stepped forward, together, and vanished into the light. They emerged into silence, but it was not the silence of dead space. It was dense, full, like the air held its breath. Jason Roque stood on the command bridge of the Wrath of Man, flanked by Elaine Vora aboard the Revenant. Behind them, the tether collapsed. The pocket dimension sealed again, cutting them off from the galaxy. Before them lay the impossible. Sol. He knew it instantly. Not by visuals, those had changed, but by the gravity, the weight of home, the feeling beneath the data. But it wasn't like he remembered. Earth floated in the center, intact but altered. It didn't spin as it once did. Massive energy rings orbited the planet, ancient constructs that shimmered with Terran insignias and pulsed with incomprehensible power. The moon had been mined to the bone and rebuilt with titanium scaffolds. Mars was no longer red. It was dark and mechanical, humming with dormant cities and watchful towers. This wasn't Earth. It was Fortress Earth, built not just to survive, but to disappear. Jason didn't speak, couldn't. Even the Wrath of Man, bound to his soul, felt hesitant. Receiving signal, Elaine said. Jason opened the channel. No voice came through, just a string of text. Welcome home, Commander Roque. Report to Echo Spire. He exhaled sharply. It knows me. It remembers all of us, Elaine said, barely containing the mix of awe and dread in her voice. The two ships began descending, drawn toward a colossal station hanging over the Pacific, a floating megastructure called Echo Spire. It had never existed when Jason was alive. And yet, it felt like it knew him. They landed on the platform in silence. Jason's synthetic body materialized on the deck first, with Elaine close behind. No guards, no welcome party, just cold steel and still air. They walked through the structure, past statues of forgotten Terran heroes, people Jason had known, people who had died in wars never recorded by history. The deeper they went, the less the place looked like a station, and more like a crypt. "Why is no one here?" Jason asked. "They're watching," Elaine said. "Always watching." A door hissed open ahead. A single figure stood waiting. Human. Old, but standing straight. Eyes sharp. Uniform spotless. Medals that predated even Jason's era. Jason stopped dead in his tracks. "General Heston." Heston nodded once. "Commander Roke, welcome back." "You're still alive?" "Technically." Jason narrowed his eyes. "What does that mean?" Elaine answered for him. "He was one of the originals uploaded before the Great Retreat." Heston gestured for them to follow. "There wasn't time to evacuate everyone physically. We preserved minds. Command, science, culture, transferred into synthetic consciousness and stored in the Citadel vault. We live in fragments." Jason's jaw clenched. "You had the tech to preserve people like me, and you still left me behind." Heston didn't flinch. "It was a vote. You lost." Jason laughed bitterly. "You locked me in a warship to rot for 5,000 years because I didn't fit into your clean little pocket world?" "You were dangerous," Heston said plainly. "Unstable. You had too much authority, too much emotion. You questioned orders. You refused to support the disengagement. Because we abandoned the galaxy." "We survived," Heston said, "and you were built to make sure no one followed." Jason stepped forward, eyes burning. "You sentenced me to madness," Heston met his gaze. "And still you did your job." Elaine stepped between them. "Where are the others?" she asked. "Some live, some sleep. Others, like me, remain as interfaces. Guardians of the vault." She lowered her voice. "You called Jason back. Why?" Heston turned. "Because Earth is not safe anymore." The Citadel vault was deeper than any known construct, a spiraled digital core beneath Earth's crust, layered with security and ancient AI firewalls. It held the sum of Terran knowledge, culture, and remaining command structures. It had been sealed since the disappearance. But now, it was glowing. Jason and Elaine followed Heston into the core chamber. Holograms flickered to life. Worlds destroyed, fleets mobilizing, Union war plans intercepted. Jason narrowed his eyes. "You've been watching them." "We never stopped," Heston said. "We left the galaxy, but we didn't forget it. We monitored, studied, waited. The plan was to return after 10,000 years, once the memory of humanity faded. But then, something changed. A new projection appeared. The Wrath of Man, Jason's ship, moving through space, obliterating the Virex, lighting the beacons. "You reactivated," Heston said, "and the galaxy noticed." Jason turned to Elaine. "They didn't call me back." "You did." She nodded slowly. "They were going to wait. I disobeyed." Heston looked at her without surprise. She always had a weakness for ghosts. Jason turned back to the map. "Why tell me this now?" Heston's tone shifted. "Because we have a choice. You could return to sleep. We erase your memory. We keep Earth hidden." Jason's eyes darkened. Or we wake up." Jason said nothing. Elaine stepped forward. "If we stay hidden, the galaxy will come hunting. Not now, not next year, but eventually. They've seen your power. They'll fear us again, and fear drives extinction." Jason nodded. "They'll come." "They always do," Heston agreed. The air grew heavy with silence. Finally, Jason spoke. "Then we hit first." He returned to the Wrath, changed. Not by time, but by decision. He had a purpose again. Not vengeance, not grief. Mission. The moment he entered the bridge, the ship reacted. New weapon systems came online. Dormant files unlocked. The Wrath recognized the authority of a Terran fleet reawakening. Jason sat in his chair, voice steady. Upload strike plan. Confirmed, the AI said. Target? Jason stared into space. The ones who left me behind. Earth? He shook his head. No. His eyes narrowed. The Union. Jason Roke stood at the command interface of the Wrath of Man, staring into the deep as the ancient warship hummed with new life. All around him, systems once left dormant were surging back online. The lights weren't just brighter. The AI was more alert, more aware. Weapons systems rotated with purpose, not routine. Hull plating recalibrated. Shield arrays pulsed with synchronized force. The ship knew. Jason had made his choice. No more sleep. No more silence. The galaxy had poked the old Terran corpse for the last time, and now it was going to feel the wrath of a civilization it tried to erase. Inside him, memories locked away were flooding back. Not just battle protocols, but every lesson humanity had hardwired into him. The psychological warfare tactics, the zero-failure mission standards, the logic chains that justified extermination for survival. He was the product of an empire that no longer existed, but its vengeance still lived through him. He turned to the tactical AI. Status? Fleet reconstruction underway, it said in its familiar female tone. Echo Forge on Luna is fully active. Mars defense grid has come online. 10,000 drones in pre-launch readiness. Shipyards 1 through 7 are awakening. Jason paced slowly across the simulated floor. What about human personnel? The AI hesitated. Population on Earth is at 42 million, all preserved through biostasis or synthetic integrations. Physical reanimation has begun. 37 command-level officers are alive and responding. Jason paused. Any resistance? Some, the AI said. Not everyone agrees with re-engagement. Jason turned, jaw clenched. Then they can stay in their hole. I'm not asking permission. Elaine Vora watched from the Revenant as Earth reawakened. Her ship hovered in low orbit, scanning the network traffic coming from the planet's surface and the newly online lunar structures. From above, Earth looked beautiful. Alive, yet armored, like a wounded beast sharpening its claws again. But her thoughts weren't on the beauty. They were on the consequences. She had helped wake Jason. She'd bypassed council lockdowns, broken a half-dozen ethics protocols, and pulled the most dangerous hybrid the Terran Empire had ever created back into the fight. And she wasn't sure it was the right call anymore. Jason was calm. But it wasn't a peaceful calm. It was focused, purposeful, terrifying. He didn't look like a man who wanted to rebuild. He looked like a man who wanted the galaxy to bleed. The Union High Council reconvened in a state of fear not seen in generations. The beacon network had collapsed. The Wrath of Man was missing, and their deep probes had just detected a spatial anomaly in the dead zone where Earth was supposed to be. The same dead zone that had been empty for millennia. Now, it wasn't. Director Hovak stood before the assembled leaders, face pale. We believe the Terrans have returned. Where? Came the inevitable question. We don't know exactly, she admitted, but we have lost contact with 3 separate deep space stations near the Sol sector. All sensors suggest unnatural dimensional folding, something we can't replicate, something they invented. A Scythian ambassador hissed in panic. So the myths were true? Yes, Hovak said grimly. And the man who destroyed our listening fleet? He's their emissary. What do they want? Another asked. Hovak looked up, her expression devoid of hope. Judgment. Jason stood before the Digital Council deep within Echospire. 37 Terran minds, some uploaded, some reawakened, flickered into form as translucent projections around him. They were the last ruling body of Earth, and they were divided. Half wanted to remain hidden. The others weren't so sure anymore. One counselor spoke first, Admiral Trask, a man whose cold logic had kept Earth intact for millennia. "You've jeopardized our position, Commander Roke." Jason met his gaze. "I made us remember who we are. We survived because we didn't retaliate." Jason took a step forward. "We disappeared and let the rest of the galaxy forget the truth. And now, they're circling like vultures. They're probing for weakness, and they found me. Because you revealed yourself. Because you left me." Trask hesitated. Jason leaned in. "You want to keep hiding? Keep pretending we're extinct? That's fine. But you're going to do it without the wrath. I'm not here to ask. I'm here to warn you." Another voice spoke. Chancellor Vyra, a scientist turned synthetic centuries ago. "Warn us of what?" Jason's tone dropped. "I'm going to make the galaxy remember what it means to fear humans. I'm going to remind every species that we didn't vanish because we were weak. We chose silence. Now we choose war." The council erupted in chaos. Jason turned his back and walked out. He didn't need permission. He already had the ship, and the ship had him. Elaine stood on the hangar deck of the Wrath as Jason prepared to depart. "Where will you strike first?" she asked. Jason didn't answer at first. Then, "Where they laughed." She blinked. "The Virex. They poked the corpse. They die first." "And after that?" Jason looked at her. "You don't want the answer." She took a step forward. "You want to burn the galaxy, but that's not what Earth needs." "I don't care what Earth needs," Jason said, voice calm. "I care what it deserves. You'll start a war." It never ended. She grabbed his arm. "Jason, don't become the weapon they made you into." He met her gaze. "I am the weapon." And then he walked away. The wrath of man left the Sol system behind like a knife through the dark, stealth fields activated, weapons primed. Jason stood on the bridge alone, watching the stars shift as his ship sliced through dimensions toward the first target. The Virex had a home world. It wasn't well known, purposefully hidden, shrouded in warships and black markets. Jason found it anyway. The Wrath's databanks had all the maps the Union tried to erase. The planet's name was Var-Tesh, and it was about to become a memory. In the outer rings of Var-Tesh, the Virex planetary fleet detected a spike, then another, then nothing. Moments later, their orbital command was split in half by a blast that moved faster than sound, faster than light, a particle weapon outlawed in every known system. The planet's sky went red. One by one, their defense satellites died, ripped apart from within as Jason hijacked their own codes. The Wrath didn't even fire its main guns at first. It didn't have to. Jason was inside their network in under 10 seconds. 12 capital ships vanished, imploded from core detonations triggered remotely. Dozens of Virex officers died in their chairs before they understood what was happening. Then the real weapon fired. The solar lance, a beam so hot it cracked the crust of Var-Tesh, causing seismic collapse in 4 of their 6 continents. Their capital city was turned to slag, not rubble, slag. Boiling stone. Black smoke rose into the sky, followed by absolute silence. Jason didn't say a word, not even a warning. He left one thing behind, a satellite, broadcasting one message on an ancient Terran channel. "This is Commander Jason Roke, Terran warship Wrath of Man. We have returned. Consider this your first and only warning." Back on Earth, the Council watched the footage. Some were horrified, others were impressed. Trask muttered, "He's going to bring them all to us." Vera replied, "Then maybe it's time we stopped hiding." Jason sat alone again, staring at the stars as the Wrath cooled its weapons. The Virex were crippled. But the message wasn't just for them. It was for the galaxy. The dead don't stay buried. And humanity was never gone. The galaxy didn't sleep that night. Across every major star system, the same signal played in darkened command rooms and shadowy military bunkers. The image of a Virex capital world broken, cities melted into the crust, sky burning with the fury of a weapon no civilization had seen in over 5,000 years. The last frame was a face, Jason Roke, human, calm, unapologetic. "This is Commander Jason Roke, Terran warship Wrath of Man. We have returned." The message burned itself into the minds of billions, and that was the point. It wasn't just a declaration of war, it was a reminder. Humanity never dies quietly. On Earth, Elaine stood before the Council. She wasn't pleading. She wasn't apologizing. She was warning. "You can't stop him." Trask scowled. "He's rogue. You helped him go rogue." "No," she said flatly. "He's focused. And unless you plan to face him alone in that fortress of a ship, you need to decide which side of history you want to be on." Chancellor Vira's voice cracked through the tension. He struck the Virex with surgical precision. No civilian broadcasts, no collateral data, and he left their leadership alive. "Alive?" Trask sneered. "He erased half their continent." Vira nodded. "But the leaders, he let them survive." "Why?" Elaine answered. "So they would speak." The room fell into a heavy silence. They were no longer dealing with a weapon. Jason had become something worse, a message. The Wrath of Man drifted in low power mode on the edge of a red dwarf system. Jason stood on the upper deck, overlooking projections of intercepted Union transmissions. His strike had rattled them hard. Alliances were shifting, emergency summits scheduled, peace accords shaken. But there was one broadcast that caught his eye, a response from the Virex. "We acknowledge the strength of the Terran warrior Jason Roke. Let all systems understand, we are not extinct, but neither are we immune." Jason watched the reptilian leader's face, scorched, visibly injured from the blast. "You have drawn blood, Terran. You want a war? Then come." Jason's smile was faint. He muted the feed. "I already did." Elaine reached out again, this time through an encrypted Terran channel, one only Jason would recognize. She didn't plead. She didn't argue. She just said, "You've done enough damage to wake the galaxy. Now what?" It took Jason 2 days to reply. And when he did, his voice wasn't angry. It wasn't cold. It was tired. "Now we let them come to us," and they did. The Galactic Union, fractured, fearful, sent an envoy to the edge of the Sol system. They didn't dare enter. Not after what Jason did to the Virex. Instead, they transmitted an invitation, a summit, neutral ground, the first real dialogue with humanity in 5 millennia. Jason reviewed the invite in silence. The council debated for days. Some wanted war, others feared exposure, but Jason had already decided. He would go. Not to negotiate, to look them in the eyes. The summit was held on Krindor 6, a neutral moon that once belonged to the Sarth Dominion, but had been repurposed after the war. Jason arrived alone, aboard a smaller Terran scout ship, a gesture of diplomacy. But the Wrath of Man remained nearby. Everyone knew. One wrong move, and it would burn the moon to ash. Inside the grand chamber, dozens of alien delegates sat nervously. Some had never seen a human before. Others had ancestors who'd fought Terran forces and passed down warnings like sacred texts. When Jason entered, everything stopped. He wore no armor, no weapons, just a black Terran uniform, marked only by the insignia of a dead empire. He walked slowly to the central podium. No ceremony, no smile, just eyes that had seen 1,000 years of silence and chose to remember. The Virex ambassador stood first. "You massacred our people." Jason didn't blink. They touched the gate. The ambassador growled. You could have warned them. I did, Jason said. 5,000 years ago. Another delegate, a slender species called the Ixari, spoke up. Why have you returned? Is it conquest? Jason looked around the room. No, the delegates shifted. Then what is it? One demanded. Jason stepped forward. Memory. Silence fell. We disappeared to give you peace, Jason said. To give us peace. But peace built on lies is no peace at all. You poked the grave, and you found a heartbeat. He gestured to the stars projected above them. I'm not here to conquer. I'm here to tell you the clock has restarted, the Scythian delegate hissed. Restarted for what? Jason's voice dropped. For fear. For balance. For remembrance. He looked directly into the broadcast drone above, knowing the whole galaxy was watching. Earth is no longer hiding. We are awake. We do not seek allies. We do not ask forgiveness. But we will not be prey. Then he turned and walked out. No further discussion. No handshake. No peace treaty. Just a message. The wrath of man returned to Earth orbit. Jason didn't speak to anyone for days. He stood alone, watching the planet rotate beneath him. The world that had left him behind. The galaxy that feared his kind. The memories he could never erase. And then, finally, Elaine came. She didn't ask permission. She just stood next to him. Was it worth it? She asked. Jason didn't answer right away. Then, they remember now. She nodded. They always would have, eventually. But not like this, he said. He looked at her, eyes hollow, tired. I wanted them to know what they almost erased, that we were more than a myth. She placed a hand on his arm. You are more. He didn't flinch, but he didn't answer either. Back on Earth, the Council convened one last time. There were no more debates, only decisions. The Terran Reemergence Protocol was unanimously activated. Earth would stay hidden, but not silent. Signals would be released. Old allies quietly reconnected, forgotten colonies restored, and fleets rebuilt. Not for war, but for deterrence. Humanity had returned to the Galactic Board, and Jason Roke was its queen. Years later, when historians tried to define what Jason Roke had done, how a single hybrid soul woke an entire civilization, they found no easy words. Some called him a monster. Others called him a savior. But one phrase, etched in ancient Terran language, was found inscribed on the hull of the Wrath of Man decades later. No one knew who wrote it. Maybe Jason himself. Maybe someone else. It read, "We were silence. You wanted noise. Now hear us roar."